Hi, this is Tricia. Welcome back to my channel and thank you for joining me for the Garden Love video hop today from Altenew. Be sure to check out all the information in the description box below for a list of all the hop participants and some cool giveaways. I'm going to be watercoloring today, so I'm starting out with a 6x8 piece of hot press watercolor paper. I like that hot press because it stamps real nice, it's so smooth. And the stamp set I have here is the brand new Tropical Jungle stamp set with 3 beautiful images. I've already used one of these on another card, but this border image, which has all these tropical leaves clustered together, is really caught my eye and I wanted to watercolor it. So I'm putting that paper into my Misty, and this is the first time I'm using my stamp, so I'm kind of giving it a good rub down with my hands to make sure that it's prepped and ready for inking. I am inking that up with Obsidian black ink, and the beauty of the Misty is, of course, if you don't get perfect stamping, you can always double stamp it to make sure you get a great impression and crisp lines everywhere. And I'm going to rotate my paper and stamp that a second time so that I've got 2 full images to paint. Really giving that some good pressure to get all those beautiful details. I'm sprinkling on some clear embossing powder over that Obsidian black pigment ink. That'll give me a nice glossy outline that will resist my watercolor, and it will even create little channels for my water to flow in while I paint. So I'm just finishing off melting all that powder, and I've got these beautiful images. So getting ready to watercolor, I have 2 jugs of water and these Wonder Forest brushes, which Amber Rain Davis turned me onto. I love them. They keep a beautiful sharp point. I'll end up using 2 sizes today, but I'm starting out with the number 6, I think. And I have this small palette of Winsor & Newton watercolors, and you saw me there have a chart I've used to swatch out my colors and some mixes, and I'm just referring to that to pick my colors. So I've gone through my chart and I've picked, they look like Halloween when I see them there, but I also thought they were sort of tropical colors. I was kind of envisioning like Bird of Paradise, this purple and orange and green. So I've got some samples over there on the left and mixed up some colors out of my palette. And what I'm doing here is painting with clean, clear water, just using the tip of my brush and wetting that paper really well. And then I will dot in the color into the corner of those little channels that are created by the embossed lines. And then the water just does the rest of the work. You just dot that color in. I'm tapping it in a few spots. And I really tried my hardest to just let it be. Just tap it in and forget about it. I have a tendency to overwork things, so I really wanted to just let the water do the work and give it a real loose feel. And if I had missed a couple spots with water, or it wasn't going to move as much as I thought, so what? It would leave some cool highlights. So that's what I'm doing, just tapping in the color. Even though I have those embossed lines that are separating my images, I do try to move from one area to the other and leave myself some space in between just so those don't bleed. So you can see on this first like orange leaf, in addition to my orange color, I'm also tapping in a little bit of darker, more vibrant orange and some brighter yellow in some various areas. And you'll see over time the water will do its work to blend those. It will still leave some variation, but it won't be quite so stark when it dries. So as I said, I'm skipping over, leaving some space and moving on to another leaf that is a couple leaves away, painting it with clean, clear water again, and then I will drop in some color once I get the leaf nice and wet. This one is going to be purple, so I'm tapping in some purple along that center vein, and then just a few spots out into the main, or the little branches of the leaves to get that color to carry through. And really, I just continue this whole process throughout all of the painting. If you're enjoying this video, go ahead and hit that subscribe button. I definitely appreciate the support and all my viewers. And don't forget to turn your notifications on by clicking the bell so that you don't miss any new content. Meanwhile, back to the painting, I am carrying on with the exact same process. I'm dropping some green in on this third leaf here after wetting the paper and letting the water blend. I'm dropping a little yellow in with that green. And then I will go ahead and skip forward because really this process is the exact same for all of these leaves. I do that in an effort to keep these videos a manageable length, but certainly let me know in the comments below if you'd rather see the full painting or real-time videos of painting and coloring, and I can do that in future videos. Okay, making some progress here. I only have a few leaves left to finish. I have really followed the exact same technique throughout all these leaves, and I'm liking this second cluster a lot better. I think that first leaf I did, which was orange, it's on the top, it's off screen right now, but it made me, it felt too fallish. It almost seemed like an oak leaf or something. I don't know, I didn't like it. And then in the bottom grouping, I'm using mostly purple and green and then just saving the orange for those little floral shapes. So I liked that a lot better. I end up keeping that orange leaf out of my final card. So once I have everything painted, I want the background to be dark. I want this to feel like we are in a dense jungle and not have a white rim, not just around the border when I die cut it, but even in between the leaves and in all the little background spaces. So you saw me consulting my color chart, and I mixed up a real dark, kind of foresty jungle green. And I am just going to go around the edges of the entire painting and drop that color in. I'm not being really careful because I am going to die cut this. But I do pull out this, you can see I pull out the smaller paintbrush. I think that's a 0. I'm going to check and take a look. And I use that when I get into the real tight spaces between the leaves and in between the different elements of that group, of that floral group. So the tip of that is so fine, and I can pull some pigment off of my palette and drop it right in there and make sure that it's nice and dark right up against that embossed line. So just like I did before, I am going to go ahead and scoot forward so that you don't have to watch me color in all those areas because there really is no new technique there. I will point out that I am rotating my paper, as you can see, so that the tip of my brush is pointing in toward the line and I can get really precise application of paint. Once I am completely finished, I make sure everything is dry, and you can see the really cool variation you get with that wet on wet technique. Now I am pulling out the dies that go with this set, and while I have the packaging open, I'll just give you a look at the inspiration and colored panels that you can use from inside the trifold packaging. And I'm also going to link to a video that I did with that other image from this set in last week's release. So this image right here, I already featured in another card, so I'll link to that video. Then there's the other beautiful image to the left, and then the border image that I did down below. And you get 3 large dies to go with those 3 large images. So I'm going to line this up on my paper and go ahead and run that through my die cut machine for both sides of my painted images. And you can see when I pull this out, I don't have any white space. The little border around the edge, as well as all the spaces in between, are filled with that dark green, and I feel like it gives the impression that you're you know, deep in the forest and there's more greenery, more foliage back there somehow. So I'm just rotating my paper and running the dye over on the other side. So now I have these two gorgeous images, and they're perfect for lining along the edge of a card, but I thought I would cut them up and use them as sort of diagonal elements for a mini Slimline card. I'm not sure if there is an official size for a mini Slimline, but mine is 6 1/4 by 3 1/4. So I cut my paper to 6 1/4 by 6 1/2, and then on the 6 1/2 inch side, I score it down the middle so that I get 3 1/4 on once it's folded. And I'm just using a piece of colored cardstock. And because it's not as heavyweight as my typical card bases, I'm going to add a white panel on the interior. So as I mentioned below, instead of using this along one edge, I'm going to cut this carefully apart and use it as a corner element on this mini Slimline card. The other thing this allows me to do is to eliminate that orange leaf that was bugging me so bad. I'm not sure why, but it just really was not setting right with me. So I cut my pieces. I'm going to do a little bit of a larger cluster in the lower left corner and then a little bit dangling in from the upper right. For my sentiment, I've pulled this high sentiment out of the same set. This is really cool, like fun font. It has a white open area in the middle of the block letter. And I'm just going to emboss that onto my card front. I'm using my Misty. I've prepped it with a powder tool, and I'm just gently pressing down so that I keep that detail, and I'm going to emboss this with some fine detail white powder. Once I have that all heat set, I am going to add some white splatters to the front of my page also to make this card a little more interesting in the background. And at first I didn't have my my watercolored pieces there, but then I decided to go ahead and put some white splatters on those as well. So I have loaded this up with some foam tape. So I've got all those little dangling pieces secured so that nothing gets snagged. And I'm putting that in the corner of the card and then going ahead and trimming out any excess. And then I'm taking the other piece that I had cut and I'm putting that in the lower left corner. Again, arranging it so that only the base of those leaves are hanging off the edge, and I just can run a long straight scissor along the edge to clean up the ends. Now in order to tuck this one in here, I had to cut off a little bit of it and then kind of slide it underneath the foam tape of the first one in order to nestle that underneath and make it look like it was growing out from behind there. And I really love, I think my favorite part of these stamps are those orange, tall, I think they look like florals. They're kind of bird of paradise shaped florals, but I really like how those climb up the side of that tropical scene. For the interior of my card, I'm pulling out the stamp set yet again, and I'm using this kind of palm looking leaf, and I'm just stamping this in a real pale coordinating green ink. And it's so light that I could still write a personal message right over the top of this without it being too distracting, but it just adds a nice coordinating touch to the inside panel of the card. I'm just using my ATG tape runner to adhere that into the inside of the card, and as I said, that also gives some stability and weight to the card because this cardstock is not particularly heavy. I'm finishing the card off. I liked that white sentiment and the white splatters, and in order to bring in just a little bit more of that, I'm using my white Signo ball, how do you say it? Signo roller gel pen? I don't know. But my white gel pen, and I am just creating a little frame using a ruler and running it along the edge of my card. And I think it helps kind of draw your eye in and create a border around that dark cardstock. I will say my biggest regret is I was not patient enough after I did my ink splatters, and some ink got on top of my heat embossed sentiment there, the high, and of course sitting on that slick surface it did not dry right away, and I smeared it and it really made me mad. So because this is an unusual card size, I'm pulling out my envelope punch board and I'm finding the closest card size here, and this is telling me that I need to cut my paper 8 1/4 inches square and to score it at 3 inches. So I'm lining it up, giving that first score line at 3 inches, and then you just punch and score each of the 4 sides, lining that little peg up with the scored line. And that's a great way to create an envelope for any kind of odd sized card. As I said, I don't know if this is like the official mini Slimline size, but it was what worked for my card front, and you can always create an envelope out of any paper that you have on hand. So I just fold those edges in, and now I've got a beautiful coordinating envelope in that dark purple color. And all I've got to do is take a little score tape. I really like to use very strong tape for this, and put a little bit on those flaps, leaving the inside open so that the card can easily slide in, and then just fold it shut. You could cut that inner point of that triangle right there if that bugs you, but it didn't bother me at all. So that is my finished card for today, and thank you for joining me on this video hop. I hope you liked this fun, colorful, bold jungle scene that I created, and having a lot of fun with watercolors today. I always appreciate you stopping by. It means so much, and be sure to hit that subscribe button if you are enjoying my videos, and I hope to see you back real soon. Thanks again.